Stepping into this house 3 years ago looked very different to how it does now. Back in 2021, my partner Chad and I found this small Victorian terraced house in London and we decided to buy it. In this video, I wanted to share the whole renovation journey up to now, which should be quite fun. So let's travel back in time to when we first viewed the house and start from the beginning. We had viewed so many houses before we found this one, and in all honesty, this house was the last house in the area that we loved that was available. They say that when you find the right house, you get a certain feeling, but neither of us got that feeling for this house, and I think it might be because most of the original features and the charm had gone, and that's ideally what we were looking for. We wanted an old property, something with character, something that was homely, and I think this house just didn't feel that way. But we both knew that we wanted a little project, something to really sink our teeth into, and that was this house. It was this house to a T. I've never really done a walkthrough of the house before we renovated, but this conservatory comes up quite a lot, in the sense that people say, why didn't you keep it? And that's because it was basically falling apart. The roof was made from corrugated plastic and it just wasn't in a very good state. Like most of the house, it does look okay, I guess, until you get to places like this room, and especially the bathroom. You can see that most of the fixtures are hanging off the walls, the tiles are broken. It just needed a new lease of life. To give you guys some backstory, by the time we exchanged on the house and actually got the keys, we had around a month until we had to move in because our lease on our flat that we were renting was coming up. So we really had to rush with this room in particular, because if we moved in, we wouldn't be able to wash or, do any of the bits that you need a bathroom for. So this was a priority when we were moving in. This house is technically a 3-bed because they classed this as a bedroom. I don't know if you can tell, this wouldn't fit a bed. So we actually decided to turn this whole room into the bathroom. And looking back at this now, I really don't know what you could have done with this room, apart from make it the bathroom. Really odd setup. But next room is this room here, our guest bedroom. The issues in here were basically only cosmetic. The floorboards needed to be changed. The window was really, really drafty, letting in so much cold. And then it was just electrics, plastering, and then this piping in the corner needed to be sorted. And then pretty much the exact same in the main bedroom. Nothing too much to deal with. It was basically just cosmetic. One thing I will say is we very much underestimated windows. All I'd say is always check the windows of the property you're going to buy, because they are probably one of the most expensive things you're going to invest in. So if they have good windows, it's a really good thing, but just know that if you need to replace them, it's very costly. The first room we started with was the main bedroom, purely because it was the easiest for us. As first-time renovators, we didn't really know what we were doing, but you can't really go wrong with taking off some wallpaper. So that's how we started. The next thing this room needed was the floor to be removed, for new radiators to be put in, and like I said, new windows and all of that sort of stuff, but that was to come a bit later. Whilst we were doing this and finishing this room, we actually decided to start removing the render from the front of our house. For this, we actually used a team who were incredible. We've referred them to so many people purely because of how affordable they are and how good of a job they do. I'm already preempting how many questions I'm going to get from this, so I will leave their details in the description below, and yeah, couldn't recommend them more highly. I don't have any footage of them removing the render from the front of the house, but we actually got them back to do the rear of the house. And this was the exact same material. Again, it's called Tyrolean, and it was a mixture of paint and cement. And it's actually a lot harder to get off the bricks than Pebbledash, so that's why you're seeing them use a jackhammer to effectively take off the top layer of the brick. They'll go and sand down the bricks, touch them up, and then repoint them. This was one of those jobs that could have easily cost us in the tens of thousands, but actually only cost, I think, around 3,000, possibly. Obviously that was a few years ago, so the prices probably have changed now, but this transformed the way both the front and the back of the house looked. So if you have this, I highly recommend you look into removing it because it does transform your house and also increases the value, so well worth the investment. How much better does this look? Without getting ahead of ourselves, we're going to go back to the downstairs and work our way through the house, starting with the hallway and our staircase.
So this wall was built by the last people, so it's pretty thin. So that's going to be knocked out, and then we're going to bring the railing back and also clean up these stairs quite a lot. This ugly handrail is going to be gone as well.
I'm actually very thankful that Chad worked from home during this time because I have no footage from this. So we're going to mix up what Chad did record and my voiceover. As he said, you can see that this wall on the right, it was made of wooden planks, wasn't original, and we really wanted to get rid of it to open up the room and bring back the character of the spindles and the handrail and the Victorian style staircase, and that's what we did.
So we've taken the wall off the stairs, which is good. It was really dark and dingy in there, so now you get this natural light from the top as well as the bottom. So that wall's completely gone. What we'll do now is insert a handrail.
So as you can see, the handrail and the spindles are now in situ with the trim going up the side. We decided to keep the bones of the staircase and then add new treads, and then again bring in the traditional elements of the panelling on the side going up the wall, which you can see is starting to happen here.
Stairs nearly done. Panelling is all done. This will just need primed and then painted. But all the way to the door, the skirtings have still to go on, but that'll get done tomorrow. Bit more progress. So the handrail stain has come out really nice. Took about 3 coats to get it that dark, but now pretty much perfect. Of course, the creamy white spindles as well. So this bottom bit's going to be painted as well.
This was quite a straightforward project, and it really has transformed the space. A lot more light comes through into the dining room and into the hallway. It's quite a small Victorian terraced house, so the light really makes a difference. You can see from this video as well that we chose to install a herringbone parquet on the ground floor. This goes through our hallway into our dining room and into the kitchen, which leads us onto our next project, the dining room and the lounge. We'll do these 2 rooms together as they're conjoined. The lounge and the dining room both had no character. My dream was to have 2 working fireplaces, but unfortunately the previous owners had ripped out all of the chimney throughout the whole house, and so it was just too expensive to add it back in. But we knew that we wanted to add 2 faux fireplaces, which eventually would house either an electric or a bioethanol stove. Another thing to mention was that I wanted these rooms slightly separated, so we decided to build a stud wall between the 2 with quite a large opening and no doors. I don't mind open plan spaces, but I didn't want the staircase and the lounge and the dining room to all feel as though they're in the same room. So once the flooring was down, we put the partition wall up and then started on the fireplaces. Once they were plastered, you could finally see the vision coming to life, and after a few coats of paint, it was starting to feel like a home. To finish the lounge off, we decided to add some sisal carpet and also create some bookshelves either side of the fireplace. Fast forward to a few coats of paint and a little bit of decorating later, and this was the lounge last year. The house has changed slightly since then, but you can still really see the stark difference between how we started and where we are at this point. The next room of the house is the kitchen. As you can see, it was just quite a dated kitchen, so we ripped everything out and actually found a leak in a pipe under the floorboards, which was causing the damp in the lower part of the back of the house. After that was resolved and the kitchen was plastered, the kitchen was then installed after a couple of weeks, but we decided that we didn't really love the colour that we had chosen, so we made quite a controversial decision and decided to paint the kitchen red. Moving on, as I mentioned, this conservatory was in such a bad state that we decided to rip it out and also remove all the concrete paving from the garden. Finally, the garden was a blank canvas and I could start designing my dream space. So I took to my notes app and drew the layout that I wanted for this garden. I've always loved formal gardens and I decided to create a type of parterre. So I placed the order for these limestone cobbles and then soon after, work began on the garden. When the tiling was finished, I could see my vision coming to life, but I quickly decided that after testing this paint colour on the fences, it wasn't really what I was going for. After a lot of plant orders in various shades of whites and purples, the garden finally was transformed from this blank canvas into the garden I've always dreamt of. I will own up and say this was the garden as soon as we had planted it in its first year, and since then it has been a bit neglected. So 2025 is going to be the year that I finish the garden and make it look the best it ever has. So if you want to see that, then subscribe and follow along. Heading back on inside, you can see that everything in the bathroom had been ripped out, and this smaller room that once housed the bath and the shower was going to be turned into a separate shower and toilet. It sounds quite confusing, and I probably wouldn't do this again, but I like the idea of having an enclosed toilet separate from the bathroom, if that makes sense. But for pure convenience and cost, we kept everything in its place. I wanted the house to feel quite traditional, so in the bathroom we chose a checkered marble floor design, ordered these tiles and then started laying them. We chose oil rubbed bronze fixtures and then decided to panel one of the walls in the bathroom with a water resistant MDF. We then got a roll top bath and a traditional style washstand, and then finished off the bathroom by tiling the shower. Now, I do love this bathroom, but in hindsight, and if I were to do this again, or if anyone would ask me for a piece of advice, I would say keep a bathroom quite timeless in the choices you make. The tiles for me aged really quickly, and if I could do it again, I probably would choose something like a Victorian mosaic or maybe a marble, purely because the bathroom is probably one of the most expensive rooms you're going to renovate. So I think keep it timeless in the choices you make, keep it quite neutral, and then if you want to add a paint colour or something else, you can do that without spending a fortune. And that's what I decided to do. So this room was then painted in a deep red shade called Brinjal by Farrow & Ball. We then also decided to change from the Victorian washstand that you would have seen before into this antique basin unit. We found it on eBay and converted it. I often get asked how we cut the marble, and we actually used our kitchen fitter. We thought that instead of cutting the marble and ruining it ourselves, why not hire a kitchen fitter, because they normally cut marble anyway. So he did a really good job and then fitted it into the wall, and I haven't regretted changing it since. The landing upstairs was also quite simple. We just added carpet, panelled and replastered, and then this is what it looks like now. One thing you can't really tell from this video is one of the things I love about this house. All of the door frames are really wonky, and it's because the house is so old, it's obviously moved over time. I think little quirks like that make a house really charming, and yes, we could have fixed it, but I quite like the fact that they're a bit wonky. Just reminding you of what the guest bedroom used to look like, I don't have much footage of this room. We renovated it quickly and it sat like this for maybe around 2 years. We didn't really use the room and it was just used as an office, so we didn't really feel that there was a rush to do it. Until recently, when I decided I wanted to wallpaper the room and make it quite a funky space. And I think I achieved that. The wallpaper was from Farrow & Ball. It was actually a collaboration between them and Chateau de Pernon, and this wallpaper was actually found in the linen press of the chateau, which I think is a really cool story, and now it's on my guest bedroom wall. I'm going to move on to the main bedroom. This room, again, was one of the first rooms we renovated. I showed you guys at the beginning the process of starting the renovation. We took off the wallpaper, we replastered, put down carpet, and this is what it looked like when the bed went in. I then decided I wanted to add a certain type of paneling behind the bed, and we also took the opportunity to build some wardrobes in the room as well. We kept it all quite plain and simple in a simple shaker style. When I say we did use a carpenter for all of the woodwork in the house, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm a master carpenter, because that could not be further from the truth. And finally, with a few coats of paint, the bedroom now looks like this. I never really made an effort with this room, and there are so many things I still need to do. We recently just added a chandelier, but I need to finish the cornice, again change the paint colour, and basically just change the whole vibe of this room. So really exciting, and again another project for this year that I can't wait to get started. So I think we've gone over every single room in this house, and now I wanted to touch on the bits that I haven't yet included. The first being the front garden and the front wall. As you can see here, this was the front wall when we started. It was quite tricky deciding the final look of the front wall. We either wanted to keep it Victorian and have a brick wall topped with cast iron railings, or we wanted to finish the wall off with coping stones on top and then have hydrangeas and plants falling over them. So we decided on the latter. We used the same team that did our Pebbledash removal, and they actually took out the old wall, built the new wall, and also lay a new concrete path in preparation for our mosaic path that was going to be put in. We went for the traditional style of mosaic, where each one of these tiles is hand laid. It does cost a bit more money than laying the sheets down that you can buy from tile stores. I think a lot of people forget that curb appeal is a big thing, and I think you can justify spending a little bit more when it's at the front of your house, and it's one of the first things that people see. So that's one of my tips. The last thing to mention is something you've probably noticed, which is our front door and our windows. We used a London-based joinery company called Beachall Joinery, and they are experts in what they do. I've actually had the pleasure of going to their factory to see how they handcraft all of their doors and their windows, and it's one of the most fascinating things that I've done during this house renovation. I'm asked pretty much daily where our windows and front door are from, so I will leave them linked below. I think it's really important to support businesses who are upholding this type of craft, and very excitingly, I'm working with them again very soon to design my back door, because my dog Dougal may have ruined it a few weeks ago. So definitely stick around to see that. I believe that now concludes our 3-year renovation. It's insane to think that you can condense 3 years down into less than 15 minutes and in one video, but that is pretty much everything we have done so far. But in the wise old words of myself, there is a lot obviously we still need to do, and that's probably never going to end. I would love for you to subscribe to follow along on the journey, because this year we're finishing all of the projects in the house and even looking at potentially moving. We've had quite a few viewings and I wouldn't want you to miss anything. So thank you for watching, and I shall see you on Sunday for another video. Bye for now.